Keynesianism begins with a simple but powerful idea that turns everyday intuition on its head. Sometimes, the best way to fix a struggling economy is not to save more, but to spend more, that is, to spend as much as possible. In moments of crisis, when businesses are closing, jobs are disappearing, and confidence is collapsing, the instinct to tighten belts can actually make things worse. Into this paradox stepped John Maynard Keynes, whose revolutionary thinking reshaped how governments respond to economic downturns and continues to influence policy decisions across the world. At its core, Keynesianism is an economic theory that emphasizes the role of aggregate demand, the total spending in an economy, as the primary driver of economic growth and stability. According to Keynes, economies do not always naturally move toward full employment. Instead, they can get stuck in prolonged periods of underperformance, where resources, including labor, remain idle. This was a radical departure from classical economic thought, which assumed that markets would automatically self-correct through price and wage adjustments. The historical backdrop of Keynesianism is crucial to understanding its significance. The theory emerged during the Great Depression, a period marked by massive unemployment, collapsing output, and widespread hardship. Traditional economic policies at the time failed to revive growth as they relied heavily on the belief that markets would eventually correct themselves. Keynes challenged this notion, arguing that without active intervention, economies could remain trapped in a cycle of low demand and high unemployment for years. One of the central concepts in Keynesian economics is the idea of government intervention to stabilize the business cycle. When private sector demand is weak, the government can step in to boost spending through public works, infrastructure projects, and social programs. This increase in spending creates jobs, raises incomes, and stimulates further consumption, setting off a chain reaction known as the multiplier effect. The multiplier suggests that an initial injection of spending leads to a larger overall increase in economic activity, as one person's expenditure becomes another person's income. Another key element of Keynesianism is its approach to fiscal policy. Rather than striving for balanced budgets at all times, Keynes argued that governments should adopt a counter-cyclical approach. During economic downturns, they should run deficits by increasing spending or cutting taxes to stimulate demand. Conversely, during periods of strong growth, they should reduce deficits or run surpluses to prevent inflation and overheating. This flexible approach contrasts sharply with the rigid fiscal discipline advocated by earlier economic schools. Keynesianism also places significant importance on expectations and uncertainty. Keynes believed that economic decisions are often influenced by what he called animal spirits, a term used to describe the instincts, emotions, and confidence levels that drive human behavior. When businesses and consumers are pessimistic about the future, they tend to cut back on investment and spending, which can deepen a recession. In such situations, government action can help restore confidence by signaling stability and commitment to economic recovery. Monetary policy, while important, plays a somewhat secondary role in traditional Keynesian thought compared to fiscal policy. Keynes argued that during severe downturns, lowering interest rates might not be enough to encourage borrowing and investment, especially if businesses and consumers are unwilling to take risks. This situation, often referred to as a liquidity trap, highlights the limitations of relying solely on central banks to manage the economy. In such cases, direct government spending becomes even more critical. Over time, Keynesian ideas have evolved and been adapted into what is often called modern Keynesianism or new Keynesian economics. These updated frameworks incorporate elements such as price stickiness, imperfect information, and microeconomic foundations while maintaining the core insight that demand management is essential for economic stability. They also recognize the importance of independent central banks and the coordination between fiscal and monetary policy. Despite its influence, Keynesianism has faced criticism from various quarters. Some economists argue that excessive government intervention can lead to inefficiency, high public debt, and inflation. Critics from the monetarist and classical traditions contend that markets are more self-correcting than Keynesians assume, and that long-term growth depends more on supply-side factors such as productivity, innovation, and investment. There are also concerns about the political feasibility of counter-cyclical policies, as governments may find it easier to increase spending during downturns than to cut it during booms. Nevertheless, Keynesian principles have repeatedly resurfaced during times of economic crisis. During global financial downturns and recessions, many governments have turned to stimulus packages, infrastructure spending, and tax relief measures inspired by Keynesian thinking. These policies aim to jumpstart demand, protect jobs, and prevent deeper economic collapse. While debates about their effectiveness continue, the persistence of Keynesian ideas speaks to their practical relevance. At a deeper level, Keynesianism represents a shift in how we understand the role of government in the economy. It challenges the notion that markets alone can ensure stability and prosperity, emphasizing instead the need for active management and intervention. It also highlights the interconnectedness of economic decisions, showing how individual actions can collectively lead to outcomes that are undesirable for society as a whole. In the end, Keynesianism is not just a set of policy tools, but a way of thinking about economic life. It recognizes that economies are complex dynamic systems influenced by human behavior, expectations, and uncertainty. By focusing on demand, confidence, and the role of government, it offers a framework for navigating the ups and downs of economic cycles. Whether embraced fully or adapted selectively, its insights continue to shape how we respond to economic challenges, reminding us that sometimes the path to recovery begins not with restraint, but with bold and purposeful action.